And I woke up and I was like, I was pretty hungover. And then I got to the tournament. I see Andrew Scarito, who's our faculty advisor at Tulane. I'm like, hey, Andrew, how you doing? He's like, check your pairings. I'm like, okay. And then I check and I'm paired against Hikaru.
This is a bit of an edited, chopped down version of the of people who were part of this Louisiana tournament that I played in Louisiana State Championship, about their experience, everything else. This is from the Perpetual Podcast by Ben Johnson. So of course, if you haven't checked out the full version, you can go there. All right, let's get going. Let's hit the play button and off we go.
Campbell, who is a senior tournament director and FIDE national arbiter, who got back into chess in the year 2018 and has been helping out the growing chess scene down in New Orleans. And of course was running the Louisiana State Championship.
Actually, you guys, I think I'm going to put this at 1.5. I'm going to put the playback speed a little bit faster. Let's put it at 1.5. Also, why does this look a little bit too large? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm crazy. Okay, let's get going.
Sure. Thanks for popping in.
Oh, no, thank you for having me, Ben. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I couldn't resist. It's such a crazy story, and there's so many tentacles. You know, everyone online outraged about, well, some people online. I mean, some people online are always outraged, but about whether. So
I'm gonna stop right here before we jump into this. So the first thing for people who don't have context is I played the Louisiana State Championship 2 weekends ago. It was a 7-round tournament. It was over the Labor Day weekend, so that's why I was able to go for 3 days. I played 6 FIDE rated games, 7 games overall, 6 of the 7 counted, and so I went perfect. I gained a bunch of rating points, and the reason people are so outraged is basically because everyone's upset about the 0.8. But the problem with this notion is that this is a FIDE rule. It's not my fault. I would have gone and played this tournament, frankly, even if it were 0.1 rating points, because it's the easiest path to guaranteeing that I get to the 40 classical games for the candidates. But the reason everyone's acting super angry is because of 0.8. But that's not my fault. That's on FIDE. And that's one thing that's a little bit disappointing. Is so many people online who are being loud and annoying is like, the only reason they're being like that is because of the points that I'm gaining versus the points that I probably should be gaining. But let's keep going with the with this.
Should have been the tournament that Hikaru played, but to me, I just love the human interest angle of it. And as someone who plays tournaments like this, I love the idea that Hikaru played. But let's start from the beginning for you. So you're running this tournament. How did you find out that Hikaru was playing?
This is good.
So Friday evening, we get an email. You know, we use King registration like a number of other clubs do around the country. And we got an email that a Nakamura had registered for the tournament. And at first we thought nothing of it because we have a Daniel Nakamura in Louisiana who plays chess and has been at some of our tournaments before. And so initially I thought it was going to be him. And then later we looked at the list of registered players and the King site and saw, oh no, that's Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura.
So a couple of other points that I'm going to make about this is the first thing that I'm going to point out about this is that I had actually planned to play this tournament for quite a while. Like at the end of Norway, I already had this tournament on my radar, so it wasn't a huge surprise for me. Like I had thought about this event already. For anybody who's wondering how I came to my decision, that's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is that I did register the night before. Now, again, with the night before, I registered at about, I would say 8 p.m. Central Time, I think it was, and the tournament started Sunday morning, sorry, it was, I think I registered Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I arrived Friday evening in New Orleans, and I registered at about 8 p.m. Central Time for the tournament with the first round at 9:30 a.m. on the following Saturday morning, for anyone who wants context. But anyway, Daniel Nakamura, we're talking about Daniel, not Daniel, but let's keep going.
Nakamura. And at this point, we were like, this has to be a joke. And when I say we, I mean Andrew Scarito, who runs the club with me, a Downriver Chess. And then we looked at it a little bit further. I was like, well, if it's a joke, they, bought in a full entry fee and they used a credit card with Hikaru Nakamura's name on it. So I guess we'll find out. And then at that point, honestly, we started initially thinking about, well, that round one's going to be a problem when it comes to FIDE because it's sub 120 minutes per game, which means it's not eligible to be rated with a 2,400 plus player in it. But we'll see if that becomes a problem tomorrow or not. And then, so, went to bed, figured it's gonna either we'll find.
Also, one thing I'm gonna say for people who are wondering is when I signed up to register for this tournament, it was required to pay the $130 entry fee. I think people who are unaware of this, someone's gonna probably do this somewhere, is that for certain tournaments like Iowa, it was possible to register and not pay an entry fee. And so unfortunately, I think that people are gonna get these crazy ideas to just register me or register Magus at certain tournaments. But for Louisiana specifically, it was not possible because there was a $130 entry fee. And because I had to pay the entry fee to play the tournament, and I didn't complain about, not getting my free entry, unlike certain other grandmasters in the past, that's why I assumed they would realize very early on that this tournament that it was really me registering.
Find out it's a joke or we won't. And then 30 minutes before round 1 was about to start, we got a text from Hikaru's second.
Is this Chris Littlejohn?
Yes, exactly, Chris.
Okay.
And so we got the message from Chris, and we're like, okay, I guess it's real. Well, it's going to be a weird weekend now. And
Yes.
it was. Because by that point, Reddit had already looked at the list. I have no idea how. And
We're on a
Twitter had
delay, you
already
guys.
looked at
We're
the
on a
list,
slight delay.
And outrage was circling about Hikaru, going to farm either rating points, depending on who you ask, although as Hikaru
Exactly.
noted, it doesn't really make any sense. He doesn't need to farm rating points. He needs
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that really annoys me is so many people are confused. They're confusing or conflating the issue. They're thinking that I'm going to these tournaments to gain rating points. I actually, as I said in my final recap from Iowa, I expected, because I decided well in advance to play Louisiana and Iowa, I expected to give up at least 1 draw. I thought my expected score was probably something like what was it? It was 6 games, feed 8, 6 and 5, 11 games. I thought I was going to score 10.5 out of 11. I expected to give up a draw, and then I actually didn't end up giving a draw. So the people who are under this notion that like I was going to these tournaments like to farm rating points is completely wrong. I'm just trying to get my games in, nothing else. Like I just have to get to 40 games, and I'm going to do it any way I can with the least possible risk.
to get the rest of his FIDE rated classical chess games in before
Yeah,
the
he needs to
candidates
farm-
to call.
Yeah, he needs to farm rated games, not
Yeah,
the points.
exactly. Yes, and so he showed up. He rocked up, and he had visited a few years back just as part of doing like when he was doing more of a street chess scene, and had briefly.
Great tragedy, by the way. I'm going to tell you guys very briefly. This is a huge tragedy for me that when I went to New Orleans in 2023 with the org that I was a part of, which was Misfits, I went to Brennan's, I saw the Morphe room, I did some interviews, I played some people in the local cafes. I did all this great footage when I was a part of Misfits, which it is or was an esports org, and all that footage has never been released. I was thinking about trying to email the few contacts that I know of people who work there, who work there, and see if there's some way that I could get that footage. But it's a great tragedy because when I went there in 2023, I played some of these same people, and it was a great experience for me. But none of that has ever made it to the internet. So it is something on my mind, and it's really sad. That footage will probably never end up anywhere. Like I remember I even went to see a hypnotist somewhere on Bourbon Street. Of course, I spoke to Jude Acers. I think I might have played Jude in one game in the French Quarter. So it's really a tragedy for me that footage never actually ended up out there.
Appeared at our club, just on like a Monday night, but we hadn't, seen him since, and had absolutely no expectation he was going to show up. And
Nobody knew I was going to be there.
So first of all, when you get the registration Friday night, you go to bed, you don't know if it's legit or not. Did you think
Right.
it was legit? Like, I mean, it is his credit card. So
again, it was his credit card. It seemed like a really identity theft seemed like a weird step to go to make a joke out of it. I'll just put it that way.
right.
But
But-
on the other hand, it doesn't seem real that like literally the number 2 in the world is going to rock up to our tournament.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
is a fairly $3,000. I mean, it's a $3,000 prize purse. Hikaru's last 2 tournaments were like 2025 Norway Cup and American. He won 90,000 himself at the American Cup. It's
Right.
like his biggest prize chance, which he won, was $800 from this event.
Yeah. And with the talk of rating farming,
Also, this is hilarious too. Like I'm going to tell you guys, this is really funny because I mean I do more than that, like on a random like earnings play. More than the entire prize fund on like a random earnings play per week, basically. So it's kind of funny to see these numbers being thrown around. Also, what I would say though is for this notion that people can go and play tournaments and make money, I'm going to give you guys the hot take of the day. A lot of chess players, you guys, they're kind of like broke boys. They don't have a lot of money. And me playing this tournament cost me a lot of money. Like no joke. Between airfare, car, and hotel, this tournament, I think it cost me over $2,000 and I made $800. So basically I lost something in the range of $2,000. Actually, no, I lose $3,000 because I'm going to donate the prize money to a local Louisiana charity at some point. So basically I mean, even if I kept the prize money, I still would be out $2,000. And as I said before, a lot of chess players, they're broke boys. They don't have money. And so a chess player is not going to go and try to farm tournaments when they're going to lose like $2,000 every weekend. Like it's just not something people are going to do. Like that's not how chess works. So for people who think it's like you can go and do this, like it's not realistic to do that. So I do want to point that out about this thing. But let's keep going.
I mean, there's nothing but downside for him rating wise.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And, I mean, again, it was just credit card. It seemed like a really
he had some tough games, and even beyond that,
Yes.
you're risking. He gained 0.8 points, which some people on Reddit were saying was actually too many mathematically. I didn't dig too deeply into that, but okay, he won 7 out of 7 and gained 1 point.
I mean, it's what it is. It's what it is. You're the only person in chess that cares about money. I hate to break it to you guys, that is not true. I can tell you that when you're up and coming, maybe it's different now, but when I was young, like a lot of times you would have like a bunch of people room together. You try to find the cheapest hotel room that you could, and you have like 4 people in the same room. So unfortunately for you guys, you're completely wrong. Like, money is a really big thing. Now, of course, if you get to the absolute top levels, it's a little bit different. But if you look at the lower levels, it's a real issue. You have American kids. I'll give you a good example. One of the kids that I supported for about a year is Andy Woodward, who actually is doing relatively well in the Grand Swiss right now. But for about a year, I mean, I don't know if I should say the number, but basically I will, because why not? I think it's known. I was basically spending about $2,000 every month so that he could get lessons with some grandmasters and try to improve his level. And you know, I no longer am sponsoring him. And to be clear, I asked for nothing out there. I got nothing out. It was just something I thought that was, you know, that was a good thing to do. And maybe it was 6 months. I forgot it was 6 months or a year. But the point is that when you look at when you look at it, I know that Andy right now, he's always trying to get sponsorship. Like, his mom is always out there trying to hustle and get sponsors. And there really aren't sponsors for American chess. So when people say these things about how, like, oh, money, you know, I'm the only person who cares about money, like, you are 100% dead wrong on that. 100% dead wrong on the realities of chess. And even Mishra is another example, doing very well in the Grand Swiss. Like, winning this event is gonna at least carry him for, or not winning this event, sorry, but he's probably not gonna win. But, you know, finishing in the top 20, he's probably gonna make more money here than he's made in like any tournament outside of maybe the American Cup, and that's like once a year. So anybody who acts like it's so easy or money doesn't matter, at least in America, that's not the case. That's 100% not the case here in the United States of America. So anyway, let's keep going.
Point. And obviously, if anything goes wrong, he loses. So it's a tough way to make an easy living if you're trying to farm rating points that way.
Absolutely. And he said it, later on stream. It's like he was increasingly nervous every time an opponent would not blunder, just because, again, there's nothing but downside for him, especially by that point, because the whole world's ready to point and laugh if he even draws any of our points.
This is the other thing that really annoys me, and I don't really want to address the idiots that much, but the thing is, everyone acts like I coasted these games for like 20 move masterpieces, like my name was Paul Morphy and, you know, I sack a piece and I just checkmate the opponents. That was not the case at all. Many of these players put up a very good fight, and Nick Matta, who I think actually is probably featured in this, he actually for about 2 moves was doing better. And I think it's really disappointing, because it sort of diminishes how hard those players fought and the fact that they actually were doing relatively well in a few of the games. And that's probably what irks me the most about the whole notion that it's like so easy and everything else, because it wasn't. And as players played well deeper into the game, it was frustrating, because when you're playing someone who's like 2000 or 2100, you expect to blunder, and then when the more moves they keep playing not blundering, you start to wonder, is this a game where they don't blunder and I don't win the game? So it was miserable in a way for anybody who thinks that it was fun. Like, it was not fun at all for me. And that's what actually annoys me, is the people who think that these guys just rolled over and died, or that like I had easy wins. None of these games were easy. Maybe actually not none, but there were 2 games in Louisiana, Matta and Campbell, which were not easy, and then Iowa, the game against Dane Zagar was not easy at all. And there was one other game that was a little bit of a struggle too. But anyway, let's keep going.
Any of the rest of the player pool.
Right. So once Chris Littlejohn texts you and you realize this is legit, you've got to think about, is he going to be streaming the games? You've got to think about crowd control. Did you have to take any unusual steps once it became real?
Well, not particularly unusual overall, though unusual for us in that we asked one of our other players, Austin Janusa, to borrow his DGT board so that we could stream that board, and then we eventually got around to setting up a tripod and having a camera on it, so that then, you know, Hikaru could stream the games, but also like they could go up on chess.com, and somewhere during the first day we got an email from WeChess about the same thing, stream the DGT. I'm like, sure. Crowd control, actually, it was not great, but it was not much worse than we see at any of our tournaments, where everybody wants to be around the top board constantly. There was somewhat more of that than normal, but not insurmountably so, thankfully. Hikaru and Chris would pretty much pop up just before the round started, and then would, you know, leave whenever the game was over, because it's, you know, it's a 4-hour game. You know, 2 games a day. You tend to have a lot of downtime.
We all know how that goes.
Yeah, this is another important point that I want to make too, is that, you know, with me, I made no announcement about it ahead of time, and there were multiple reasons. And we'll start with all of them one by one. The first one that people are probably going to laugh at is the fact that if I had given a lot of advance notice, maybe because it's Louisiana, this wouldn't be the case, but you never know how many people could show up. For example, you might suddenly have like 100 people show up to the tournament to register and want to play. And for an organizer, what can they do about it? I mean, if 100 people show up, they're going to have to turn people away. It's going to be a complete mess. There are going to be too many spectators. Also on that note, and it's probably very much in the vein, especially with what happened the other day, is security issues too. Like, you never know with anti-cheat, you never know with like actual people showing up, you never know who's going to be there. That's the second very, very important point to why I did not register, did not inform anyone well ahead of time. But of course, the third reason, and I will say this because everyone's going to say, well, you know, there's another reason which you're intentionally missing, is of course, I registered late because, you know, you also don't want people like random GMs showing, or a bunch of GMs showing up either, if you register for a tournament. So those are like the three core reasons. The first two matter a bit more than the third one. Third one is, I would say it's probably like 60% a little bit of worry about security, crowd, and about like 40% overall of like GMs or who knows showing up and everything else, just to be clear. But that's actually the biggest reason I didn't announce ahead of time in either Louisiana or Iowa, especially with Iowa, because next day visitor count would be high. It's possible, but I would argue that most people have lives, and they're not going to show something up and drive like 5 hours away to show up. Do I have my own security team? No, I do not, you guys. I do not. I don't know. I don't. But you know, that's topic for another day.
Exactly.
Well,
And go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, Hikaru definitely was gracious enough. He took some pictures with some of our, some of our players around, in between rounds and whatnot. But then he would kind of disappear, so it was not crowd control in between rounds. Was thankfully not too big of a deal.
Okay, because I did see some pictures online of what looked like him doing postmortems.
Yes.
No, he did actually.
Yes.
After round 5, Hikaru went into the Skittles room and went through like just a full standard.
You know, I would say also, you know what's crazy about this picture specifically? What's wild about this game is that this guy that I played, his name is Mark Schulenkamp, and he was like a master when he was much younger. But when we were analyzing after the game, it's kind of crazy to hear how he'd come back to chess after having not played for 20 plus years. As you can tell from the picture, he's a little bit older. He comes from the pre-internet generation, and he was telling me when we were analyzing afterwards about how like he lost all his notes that he had worked on the King's Indian and various openings when Katrina came through in 2005 and basically destroyed New Orleans itself. And that also is another thing that's really like kind of brings everything home for me, because when you plan these events, like you're sort of dealing with the common folk, the people that, like, you know, I was once one of them too. Like, there was a time that I was just this young kid wanting to play chess, just going and having fun with the games, and it really kind of bring at least for me, it brought me back to my younger years when I was a kid, and it's just you go play a tournament for fun, and it's all great. So I just want to add that anecdote because it's not going to be mentioned here, but this guy Mark Schulenkamp, really nice guy that I played against. And it was a lot of fun. But let's keep going with this interview. This guy is the arbiter. Yes.
Other players might with his opponent in that round, Mark Schillenkamp, and he talked about that later. You know, said he enjoyed the hell out of it. He hadn't done it in decades.
Yeah.
But yes, he did. Hikaru did that after the last 3 rounds. He did it with Mark. He did it with Nick, and then he did
Charles
with Charles. But Charles had to leave to drive back home, basically.
Okay.
So couldn't get as much out of that. But yes, and from what I saw and what I heard, and what I could walk by, obviously trying to watch the hall as much as possible between the two of us, 100% between the two of us, didn't see too much of a problem with crowding of the Skittles room.
Okay. Yeah. And as you mentioned, somehow the internet got it even before the tournament started, which I find somewhat amazing. What was the atmosphere like before round 1, before he had actually showed up? Was everyone just kind of watching the door? What was happening?
They were. The number of times I was asked, "Is this real?" Was
right.
Fairly nuts. Roughly 1 per player plus 1 per spectator. And the answer was always the same. No. Find out in about 10 minutes. Or,
Right.
Wait and see.
And then Hikaru, again, he did have some tough games, but he went 7-0, won first place. What was the prize giving? I understand he didn't get does he get the trophy or no?
Well, no, he does not get the trophy, not as a Louisiana resident. The trophy went to Nick Mata again, who successfully defended his title. But Hikaru got he got a check, and there was, he got a check. We got a picture, or Andrew got a picture with handing Hikaru the check. And that was pretty much it, because, as a relatively small tournament, with Hikaru being clear victor, he got his prize and he left, which is perfectly fine. Other people stuck around until much later in the day to get the final prize distribution and get the payouts, because as usual there's 18 zillion way split for third prize and
Right.
under 1600 kind of thing. It just always gets more ugly the further you get down and down and down. Everybody else has gone home. There's typically not a big ceremony.
And as we mentioned, there's been some online discussion about whether this is a good system for FIDE to have for someone to qualify for the rating spot for the FIDE candidates, which is why Hikaru needed to play rated games. Do you even venture into those waters? Do you have any opinion about a question like that?
I went far enough into the waters to understand why Hikaru could gain literally anything by showing up to that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I did vaguely remember the Ali Reza and Ding Liren sort of parallel controversies in cycles past. It doesn't seem like a particularly great system, but on the other hand, I don't know that anybody seriously thinks that Hikaru should not be able to play the candidates. It's not like it would be the first time.
Right.
So I'm not sure that we're really losing anything by, having this pathway. He played Norway, he played the American Cup. We know he's good. What else do you need?
Yeah. And this.
Yeah, I mean, this is also the important point. This is one of the things that disappoints me is like everybody who talks about and tries to compare it, it's not the same thing for a couple of reasons. So the first point as far as why it's not the same is because when you look at Ali Reza's situation, he needed rating points. It was based off of one rating list and he needed rating points to make it in. I don't need rating points. I just need to get the number of games. That's all I need. I don't need rating points. Like if I need to gain like 10 points or something, I would actually argue people would be right to be angry at me because then I'm actually chasing something and doing it in a way that doesn't make sense. But I don't need the rating points. All I need are the games. Literally, I just need the games. End of story. Full stop. And so I do find it a little bit annoying that people try to compare them because they're not the same situation. In the other cases, the players needed games and or rating very specifically. I would also add that I think what's said here is very true. There is no perfect system, and chess players being chess players are always going to find a way to game it. With Ding, Ding was a little bit different because he basically played in closed tournaments in his home country, and I mean we don't know exactly what happened, but I will once again use the classic phrase that Levon Aronian told me at the time because he was the player who got screwed over by the whole Ding situation. As Levon said at the time, he said this is complete bull something. So that's what I'll say about the whole Ding situation specifically. Whereas in my case, you can't really argue the same thing because I've played in tournaments. I won the American Cup. I played in Norway chess. I mean, those are the best tournaments in the world with the absolute strongest players. And to try and argue that somehow I'm a weaker player or like I don't deserve it when I played those two tournaments, which are the best two tournaments in the world, is just like it's a little bit weak. So let's keep going.
This case, it's one of those things where there's he's a rightful candidate this time, but
I mean, like let's put it this way: for people who say it's the same thing, how's it the same thing? I had no control over my opponents. I showed up at events where anybody could register. I mean, Ding literally is playing against the same players over and over again in matches in his home country, like with only 1 point. I mean, like let's be real. Like let's be real. Like you really want to go there? I mean, what am I like paying my opponents money so that they lose the games or something? Like, come on. I mean, be serious.
There could be circumstances like even someone like Vishy Anand, who's obviously, one of the biggest legends of all time, but keeps a very high rating because he doesn't play very much. So Hikaru's like not at that stage of semi-retirement yet, but moving in that direction. But anyway, I mean, we don't get to make these decisions anyway, so it's but I was
absolutely. I mean, conceptually, I think just a wild card would have been sort of a cleaner solution for what I suspect FIDE was trying to accomplish by having this rating spot set.
Actually, this is important too, which I agree with. Like a wild card would be better, but the problem with having a wild card versus having a rating spot is that then there's a big sponsor who gives a lot of money and they get to pick someone who isn't necessarily number 1 or number 2 in the world to be the wild card. Otherwise, this would make sense. But that's kind of the problem with trying to have a wild card is that then you have a sponsor who puts in a lot of money and then they get to pick who the wild card is. And it doesn't mean it's going to be Magnus Carlsen or myself or anybody else. That's the problem.
Set up this way, which was just to give Magnus a path back if he wanted it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this also, this is the other thing that really annoys me. I'll play it back just 1 second. Let's just go here.
I suspect FIDE was trying to accomplish by having this rating spot set up this way, which was just to give Magnus a path back if he wanted it.
This is the other thing that really annoys me. Like the amount of people who are trying to pretend that this whole rating spot was not for Magnus, or maybe for Magnus, the wrong word, but in case Magnus suddenly wanted in, is insane to me because it's 100%, no doubt about it, the way that it was written, the way that it was structured. It's in case Magnus wakes up one day and decides that he doesn't hate FIDE and he's desperate to get the world championship crown again. Because if we go back and look at the start of the year, there are a couple things. At the start of the year, Fabiano, myself, and Arjun, we were all pretty bunched up. There were give or take a couple of points between us. There was no big gap, but there's always a big gap between Magnus and whoever's number 2 in the world. And I think at the start of the year, Magnus is something like a 40-point gap on everyone else. So Magnus has a 40-point gap. So if Magnus decides, you know what, I want to play, he's just going to play the games and get in. The second reason that's very obvious as far as why it was for Magnus is because in past years there was a rule that you had to play either the Grand Swiss or you had to play in the World Cup. Lo and behold, I think if you look at all the top players, every top player bar one would almost certainly would be willing to play the World Cup or the Grand Swiss. But there is one player where you have no guarantees they're going to be willing to play those events. And again, the fact that those events suddenly vanish from the regulations, it's black and white. Like, there is no doubt at all that it was done in case Magnus wants to play. And I actually would argue that I think it should be required. It should be required. You have to play the Grand Swiss or the World Cup. But, you know, if Magnus wakes up one day and he's like, he wants to get the Canada, he's gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna play a 9-round Grand Swiss or 11 rounds, whatever the Grand Swiss is. He's gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna play that. So of course, you just magically remove that from the requirements, just like the World Cup. That's just the bottom line. But at the end of the day, the reason it's silly to do this and why they should have stricter regulations is because Magnus is not going to change his mind. Magnus absolutely hates FIDE. He blames the mill for leaking information being the reason why he gave up the World Championship crown in 2022 when there were negotiations going on during the Madrid candidates. So Magnus will never come back. And then you compound that with issues like Jeansgate in New York. There is 0.00 chance of Magnus changing his mind. 0% chance. And this is not me like speculating. This is stuff that I know for a fact. So let's keep going.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know, the rules were set down the way they were, and I expect nothing less that out of high-level chess competitors than figuring whatever rules they can reasonably work within and do it that way.
Yeah, even if they have to play in a Mickey Mouse tournament.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess that was the arbiter.
And we are here with Hikaru Nakamura's first round opponent from the Louisiana State Championship. His name is Harry James. He is a 20-year-old junior at Tulane University with a double major in economics and history. Originally from New Jersey, I just found out, where I currently reside, and I'm excited to hear his Hikaru story. Welcome to the pod, Harry.
All right, it's nice to meet you, Ben.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat. Just an incredible story. So you were starting to tell me before we hit record, and I was like, no, stop, because I want it to be organic. So Friday night, the night before the tournament, I already interviewed Nahum, although this is going to come out, yours is going to air in sequence before his, since you played him.
Me and Nahum play pretty consistently in our chess club, because I'm the president of the club. He's a PhD student. We'll get like 6 games a club. But yeah, the night before the tournament, I was drinking with some friends, and then I get a call from Carter, who was president of the chess club before me. He's now in San Antonio because he graduated, but I got a call and like we think, and like he's like, dude, Hikaru registered for the tournament. We were like, but we're both convinced it was just fake, like
right.
Somebody, because I think someone else did it so you could like, because you can register as like Magnus Carlsen if you updated his USCF. So it's like there's a way it could have been fake. I was like, oh, whatever. And I was just like,
not wrong, by the way. But as I said earlier in this video, the one thing that made this tournament unique versus other events. And by the way, I don't want to give people ideas. Like seriously, for anybody out there who's getting this idea to like register Magnus or myself for every tournament where you don't have to pay. The one big difference between this tournament and others was, of course, that I had to pay a $130 entry fee. So I couldn't just register. I had to literally put a credit card, pay the entry fee. And that's why I felt that, you know, most people would realize right away that it wasn't actually a troll. Because again, who's going to spend $130 a troll? If it's like $10, maybe you'll get a kick out of it. But $130 is a lot of money to do that kind of a joke. Anyway, let's keep going.
Drinking with my friends, and I woke up and I was like, I was pretty hungover. And then I got to the tournament. I see Andrew Scarito, who's our faculty advisor at Tulane for the chess club.
Tulane, yep.
I'm like, hey Andrew, how you doing? He's like, check your pairings. I'm like, okay. And then I check and I'm paired against Hikaru.
Unbelievable. So at that point, you're thinking it's probably real?
Yeah, well, yeah, at that point, I think it's probably real. Everyone's saying, I'm like, is he actually here? And everyone's like, yeah, he's there. And then I'm just sitting at my table, and probably about like maybe like 10, 15 kids, some adults too, or just kept coming up to me like, you got this, good luck, like you can do it. So that was pretty cool. And like, and I was a little upset. I'm like, Dad, like, why did I get put up against Hikaru to Andrew? And Andrew's like, most people would, like, you're in a very lucky situation. Most people would be very thankful.
I think, yeah, I mean, as someone said, use a credit card with my name. Yeah, I mean, basically, so I mean, full disclosure, I listened to some of what these people said, not everything before this, because I listened to on the Apple podcast, and I think the arbiter actually said this, and my mods cut this out of this little first part with the arbiter, but I think the arbiter said something along the lines of he basically, someone had to basically troll me by registering me. They had to have my credit card, and all the information. And then for identity theft, instead of using my credit card to like buy a TV or something, they decided to register me for a chess tournament. Like, that's really next level identity theft. I mean, obviously identity theft is not a joke, Jim, as the saying goes. Or I think it's a joke, or it's very serious. But the point is, at the end of the day, it's so out there. Like, it's just so out there. Like, if someone steals your credit card, they're gonna register you for a chess tournament. I mean, you're gonna go and buy, like, you're gonna go buy a pizza, you're gonna go buy a TV or something like that. You're not gonna go and like use someone's credit card to register them for a chess tournament. Like, that's like, you're just not gonna do that.
To be in this situation, and I was like, I agree.
And yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me. People will have already heard my interview with Richard Campbell that word got out so quickly that someone just randomly discovered it, and then word gets passed along, and a lot of people in the tournament found out in advance. So you're sitting at the board, but had you seen Hikaru milling about before he comes to play you, or?
I saw him walk around in the tournament hall, walk around and then sit in the seat and then get back up and walk back around. I was like, oh,
okay. And of course, it's come to light what his motivation was to play this tournament. He needs a certain number of rated games in order to qualify for the FIDE candidates. Did you have wind of any of that? Or are you like, why on earth is he here?
Well, I remember right before the game, I asked him, I'm like, why are you in Louisiana? He said to play chess. And then Nick Mata, he's Louisiana state champion.
Yeah, I'll be interviewing him too.
He explained the whole candidates thing to me.
Okay. And then the game,
I'm here to play chess, bro.
It's tough playing Super Grandmaster. But he played one before, the orangutan, sometimes called the Polish.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that?
I mean, I was honestly very happy about that because the orangutan, I think the only time I've beaten Nick Mata, he played the orangutan. So I was pretty happy because his theory, I knew like the first few moves. I knew I wasn't worse starting off. So I was honestly kind of like, I was kind of like half excited, half embarrassed. Because it's like, it's a little bit of a demoralizing opening phase. So you're like, oh, he's just gonna crush
that's
me.
what I wondered about. I mean, some people might think it's like, I don't know the word, but sometimes like the Bon Cloud, obviously is the most extreme example. E4, King E2. If someone plays that, they're not playing a serious chess game, and there's a sense of mocking. The orangutan obviously is not that, but it's not considered a serious opening. Although white is still better if they play it. So at Hikaru's level, it's fine.
It made it a really fun game though if you took a look at it.
Yeah, I did see the game, and for listeners, funny sort of back angle. As I discussed with Richard Campbell, they needed to borrow a DGT board. They didn't have it for round one since they weren't sure if Hikaru was coming. So Harry's game at the time I'm recording on Friday, I couldn't find a PGN online. Hikaru did recap it on his video, which I watched. But as of initial reporting, the PGNs are available for the other 6 of Hikaru's games, but not Harry's yet. But I have a feeling someone's going to watch the video and post it online sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to post it at some point. But they had to move the board to another side of the hall, but they were not prepared for Hikaru to be there, which is really funny.
Yeah. And then so how long did the game take in time?
So I think it's the first round. It's not classical. It was
game 60, game 60 minutes.
He ended up with, I think, 71 minutes. I ended up with, I think, 26 minutes after 44 moves.
And how many times have you watched his video recap?
Probably about like 3 or 4 times.
Nice.
I don't blame you. And it's funny because
like first one, like first game in the video. It's also like that video has my friend Naum's game, and a very good friend of mine that I've known since like I first joined the chess club. Okay,
and listeners will hear his interview next, actually, on the pod. And Hikaru, he doesn't mince words. He never holds back. So he said, he says something in the video at one point. He says, like, I was just trying to get this game over as quickly as possible, trying to move instantly. But then there was another move where you prevented his rook from coming to the 7th rank. You played a prophylactic move where he said it was an excellent move. So when you watch the recaps, are you living and dying with his critiques?
I think so. I mean, obviously, like I told a lot of my friends about it, and I kept getting sent the one where it's like, oh, like I want to get this game done as quickly as possible. Like that was very funny.
Right.
But, when he said like I played the best move and I was playing like in spite of my rating, like it made me feel good about my game and everything like that. Like I was honestly pretty surprised because I thought
I think his rating was like 1580, or at least that's what Chris told me before the game started, that Harry's rating was like 1580, and so like for 1580, like he played quite well. Like, I mean, of course, even if he played like a 2000 or 2100 level, I would have won the game, but he did play better than a 1500, and he did survive for quite a bit longer. So like I don't just make that up to say that, to make someone feel good. He played better than his rating, and I think, ultimately is no chance of winning the game. But he did about as well as he could have. So it was very, very impressive.
I was lost before then.
Yeah, I'm sure that's nice to hear. And even when he says he's trying to get the game over with, like, that's not personal, you know. That's
Right. Oh
that's,
yeah, of course, of course.
yeah. Well, it's good that you have that perspective.
Okay.
And we are here with Hikaru Nakamura's third round
Nahum
opponent.
Villamil.
His name is Nahum Viami Garces. He is from Colombia originally, but in his fourth year studying in New Orleans. And our guest got a lot of attention because he issued this heartfelt comment to one of Hikaru's streams describing the experience. He wrote, "I'm Nahum, the third game guy. Imagine signing up for your first official tournament in years in a foreign country and seeing one of your childhood idols showing up on his journey to the title. In 2 words, a dream. I was paired against an absolute icon, got a nice chat, pictures, a sign sheet, and now a recap of my mistakes. Haha. What else can you ask for? That he gets to win the world title and to be a little part of that. Thanks, Hikaru." So that really I found touching, and I really felt it encapsulated what I like about this story. And without further ado, I would like to welcome to the program Nahum Villamil Garces. Welcome, Nahum.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for this invitation. And as I told you before, I really
Oh,
like
okay.
this
So
podcast
it's
in
just
general,
a
so
picture.
pleasure for
Yeah.
me.
Thanks. That's great to hear. But Nahum, I really wanted to congratulate you. First of all, you, as we'll get into eventually, you gave Hikaru a real fight. So Nahum's rated about 1900, but I ran it through the Lee Chess game analyzer. Hikaru scored like a 95, and Nahum was also in the 90s. So a very high quality game where you just got ground down a little bit. But before we get to the game, when did you first hear that Hikaru was playing in this tournament?
First of all, the chess is probably pretty generous. But I heard about Hikaru's joining the tournament around midnight the previous night.
Okay.
I mean, the first round was on Saturday, and I was watching a movie indeed, and we got a group, part of Tulane Chess Club, my university, and some of my friends sent a screenshot like, "This is probably a prank, but I guess Hikaru is joining the tournament." And we all were guessing like, this is probably not true. There is someone pranking, and I heard the story that there is also another player from Louisiana with the same last name,
Daniel Nakamura.
So everybody was thinking that it was him. But when I arrived in the morning to the venue, I was passing by in Loyola University in New Orleans, and I saw him. I was, okay, this is true. And I even make a joke like, "Are you really playing this tournament?" And he was, "Yeah, this is not a joke, I'm playing." And I was like, good luck, I guess.
Right. Yeah, he may not need it, but good luck nonetheless. And so you're rated 1900. I know that one of the top seeds is the many-time champion FM Nikmata. There's a few, certainly some other players over 2000. When you didn't play him in the first round, did you think it was realistic that you might end up playing Hikaru?
Good question.
A friend of mine went that day, and I was talking to him like, "Hey, I really want to play this guy. It's like playing one of your childhood idols.
Obviously.
So I need to win my first game, hopefully my second, and we will have a chance." I was thinking on the ratings. I was like half of the first half, right? So I was expecting for him to get me in one of the rounds. And he started with the opposite colors. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I got a chance. And when we finished the second round, I was talking to the organizers, and they didn't remember me well.
Right.
I'm kind of new in Louisiana chess, and they say, "Hey, there is this guy from Colombia that is playing Hikaru," and I was, "Wait, what? Are you serious?" I thought they were joking with me, and it was me, so it was really fun.
Amazing. And did you feel extra nervous once you know you're playing him?
I wasn't nervous. To be honest, I was thrilling. I was completely in shock. I sent screenshots to my mom, to my dad, to my friends, and I was just excited. Everybody was telling me, of course, everyone is making jokes like, "Yeah, you got this. He's the easiest one."
Yeah,
And
you know, I mean, I think
like,
I think that's one thing that people, you know, it really kind of irks me. I mean, this is a more general comment than not just chess specific, but I think a lot of times, for whatever reason, people kind of forget where they come from. That's my general perception or view. I've held this view for a long time. But I think that a lot of people forget that, you know, there was a time when all of us, and I mean, whether it's myself, whether it's other top players, like there were times when we were also just nobody. We were little kids just playing the game of chess. You go to a tournament, you see your opponent, you just play, no expectations, no ego, no nonsense, none of that sort of stuff. And I think it's very easy to forget where you come from. And so for me, like when I see stuff about sending a picture to like your mom or your dad, you know, I think back to some of the early examples, like way back in the mid 90s, you know, I got to take a picture with Garry Kasparov. I think it was in New York City. He presented me one of those like Kasparov chess, little like computer programs that played the game, you know, or playing Judith Polgar in a simul at the US Open in Hawaii in 98. Like all these sorts of things, like for me back then, like they were really, really special memories. And like, obviously I'm able to recall them right now, remember them because they're such vivid memories. And I think it's very easy for people who've like succeeded, and I'll just talk about chess specifically. It's very easy to forget where you come from and how much this can mean to some people, because it's something that all these players will be able to have. It's an experience they'll be able to have for their entire life, and they didn't even have to spend any money for it. They got to play a tournament, and that ultimately I think is what matters the most for these players, because they'll never have that opportunity. They'll never have that opportunity. You know, people can be angry about a game here, a game there, but these are lifetime experiences for these people, and it's something that they'll have for the rest of their lives. So that's why I think it's very important to remember the context of the situation to see how happy these players were.
Okay, if I happen to prep anything, he's probably going to know better anything I can find, right? So I'm just gonna try to play the chess I kind of know and hope for the best. Or as I call with my friends, play and pray.
Play and pray. I like it. Yeah. I was going to ask about prep. It seems, I mean, at his level, he just knows the openings that super GMs say they don't know. They know 20 moves of
by the way, in terms of paying money, you're right. They had to pay the entry fee to play the tournament. But I'm just saying, like, let's be real. I mean, if we're being real, to have the opportunity to like meet or talk or play against any top GM, I mean, you're gonna have to go to some event where you're probably gonna have to spend $1,000 at least, probably more, but at least $1,000. So it's not a joke.
Theory. And the other thing is they're very good at the psychological dynamics of sniffing out if you've done a lot of prep, and they can always change. So you didn't look at a single line before playing him?
No, I wasn't looking for anything at all. I kind of knew that he was going to play something annoying he's a super grandmaster. He's going to make you suffer a little bit on the board, right? I was like, okay. And the first move, he plays C4, and I was expecting, oh no, I hate to play the English. And then I played knight F6. I was hoping for a transposition to a queen's pawn, like a traditional.
Okay, Queen's Indian, or Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit declined.
As I can recall, I grew up as a kid watching his game when I was trying to learn the King's Indian. I was watching his games, Kasparov games, Bashir Lagrav's games, and I remember his game against Gelfand in 2010.
Gelfand, of course.
And this would be fun if I happened to play a King's Indian against Hikaru.
Yeah.
But he ended up playing G3, which is an annoying setup, but it was fun for me.
Yep.
And we are here with the Louisiana state end boss. He is a 5-time state champion. He's the
I mean that was a great segment. Yeah, playing the King's Indian. You know, that's the other thing. It's like it's very easy, I think, sometimes to forget. Like, since I've been playing chess so long, you know, like you just think about your games and you go from tournament to tournament, you know, event to event. But the games don't necessarily leave the same impact. But when you see these sorts of players, like, it's easy to forget just how much some of my games do mean to them.
highest rated in the state, 2344 USCF currently, although he's been as high as 2399 USCF. In preparing for this interview, I actually discovered he's an amazingly accomplished adult improver. He gained about 1,000 points in his 20s, which I think we're going to discuss in a different interview, because for today, obviously, the story of the week, the story of the month is Hikaru's appearance in the Louisiana State Championship. And we're actually recording this on Saturday, so now he's in the Iowa State Championship. I don't know if I'm going to cover that in a podcast, but in any event, excited to talk about his round 6 game and his background, and to welcome to the program 3-day master Nick Mata. Welcome, Nick.
Nick Mata, yeah.
Thank you for having me, Ben. It's truly an honor. Been a big fan of the show for quite a while now, so been following, and yeah, I'm glad I can pop in.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm honored to hear that, like I said, and definitely excited to dig into your background a little bit here and more in the future. But what I've been asking everyone in particular about Hikaru's unexpected appearance, so we got the story from Richard Campbell, the organizer, and from Harry and Nahum about how they found out. When did you find out that Hikaru was playing in this tournament?
Yeah, so I saw his registration a couple hours after I had registered rather late for the tournament, because I had been living in New York City this past year and then moved back to Louisiana. And I didn't know how many of my opponents would know if I would play or not, so I decided to register on the last day. And then 2 hours later, I checked, and someone had registered as Hikaru Nakamura. I thought, so I'm like, oh, they're trolling me in response to me signing up late. I'm like, okay, we can all sign up late. So then I get told by the organizer that a lot of the information seems to be legit, and there might actually be Hikaru. So at 10 p.m., I'm getting told this the night before.
So did you text them to inquire, or did they reach out to you, or...?
They reached out to me because we're pretty close, and like we organize events together, and I think he was just equally excited.
But basically it's like, yeah, I register. It's like, uh-oh, wait a second, the credit card information matches. He's actually playing, basically.
And just like we had no idea that this was coming, so I think we were all just like trying to figure out, is this real or not, or is this a troll? And yeah, so at that point I was thinking, wait, it might be real. So it was about 10, 11 o'clock the night before that I found out, and I needed to like go for a long walk to like consider to just kind of get myself ready. So yeah,
and Hikaru, of course, recapped your game. He said some kind words about both you and Charles Gamble, who he included in the video since he was his round 7 opponent, who I am hoping to catch up with tomorrow. But one thing that Hikaru astutely pointed out is that he felt like you might be a little less frightened. He said, quote, the more experience you have playing higher rated players, the less likely you are to be scared of their aura. And you have played Levi Rosman in some of the invitational events, and according to Hikaru.
You know what's really funny is when Nick, I think he might talk about this, when Nick played Levi, I remember covering that game, and Nick played this absolutely putrid, I mean, the system itself is fine, but he played this absolutely putrid setup against the Trompovsky when Levy played it. Levy was sort of out of form and it ended up being a draw anyway. But like I was really critical of Nick's setup because what he did was something that I thought was just absolutely horrible against the Trompovsky.
You play Hans.
I've played Hans a few times, but I think the game he's likely referring to is
the World Open
in
yeah,
2023
exactly.
when Hans was on his like American tour.
He won that one, right? Didn't he?
Actually, he struggled with that one. He won, I think, the previous year.
It was a draw. Levy
but
drew.
This was while he wasn't getting invites, and the whole thing with Magnus had already happened.
Right.
And he was just playing whatever tournaments he could. I think he had just won Vegas and then played the Philly International, which I was also at. And then we got paired very early in board 1 at the World Open.
Okay.
And that was definitely a different experience. I think Hikaru was right that my experience in those other games definitely helped here.
Yeah.
Just having a lot of people watch your games and just knowing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very important point that like when you see the players, if you've never seen a top grandmaster, you're kind of you're just like you're so in awe. You're just like, oh, like, you know, you have no idea that they're still humans. But the more of them you play, the more you realize that like they are actually just human. Like, of course, like I'm not gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna play great, just like any other top GM will. But the more if you've seen them a little bit, at least then you're not as in shock, and so you're able to sort of adjust and at least just play your chess.
How many people were watching. It was interesting playing Levy before because the hardest part of that was knowing Hikaru was commentating on the game.
Right.
So this time,
yes.
I know Hikaru was
Yeah.
playing it, getting the commentary ready instead, but
Yeah.
it was a lot easier this time.
Right, that makes sense. And when I interviewed Nahum and Harry, both of them, they're like, Harry, okay, he finds out in the first round he's playing Hikaru, which is most likely the only way a 1500 was going to play him. Nahum was like crunching the numbers to see if he would have a chance. You know, if you do your job, you won this tournament 5 times. You know, if you do your job, you're going to face him sooner or later. So how heavily was that weighing on you in the earlier rounds?
Oh, tremendously, but I think it was good for me because I haven't been so active since moving back from New York to New Orleans these last few months, just playing some local events mostly. And you know, after playing the same tournament for many years, you're always looking for new angles of motivation to like really get your best performance against lower rated competition. And so then knowing Hikaru was like on the back burner, like I have to not only like win the games, but make sure I'm playing good chess to prepare for Hikaru.
Right.
No, I felt like every game I was like looking at his game, focusing on mine, just like trying to like consider that it was coming. And actually, I drew in round 5 and was like slightly concerned maybe.
Yes,
that
he
would
drew
mess up
Charles
my chance
Campbell.
to play him, but it worked out in the end. But
Yeah, you played him the very next round, as it turned out. And the opening, so I was saying before we were recording, we're going to try not to go too deep in the variations. There were some very interesting moments in Nick's game with Hikaru, and I certainly encourage everyone to watch Hikaru's postmortem on his YouTube channel. But briefly, the opening was a Queen's Gambit declined, and you played this Bishop G4 move on move 9 that surprised him. And for people listening, I will throw a few diagrams up on YouTube, but we're not going to go too deep in the weeds. But so had you looked at that specifically, this Bishop G4 move?
Yes, I had. It'd been a while, but I had looked at it in preparation for the US Masters, I guess 2024, last year when Fabi played. I remember it was the same tournament, not for Fabi, but
Right.
I had looked at it for that tournament. So it's to say, I've looked at it, but it had been quite a while since I looked at Bishop G4 in that position because Knight F3 is more of a rare move, but it does present certain challenges to Black because usually Black's trying to get a very specific type of plan, attacking on the king side if White goes pawn F3 rather than Knight F3. And so I knew Bishop G4 was an active attempt at trying to solve Black's problems, but there's this Queen B3 counterattack which might entail a pawn sacrifice. I wasn't fully up to date or fresh on the details of it, but I just knew the engine thought it was fine.
Right.
And I thought, if nothing else, I should represent that I'm prepared to Hikaru. You know, like I'm showing I'm
See,
prepared.
like that. That's also like this is also a good example when you look at someone talking about being prepared. Like if you've played against top players even a little bit, you're more likely to feel confident to act like that. If you've never seen them, never played against them, you're never going to be like that. You're going to just be afraid. You're going to be timid. And like top players or GMs, they will sense out that that nervousness very easily. And that's one of the points, because he's played against Levy or he's played against Hans, like he's had some of these experiences. He's not as afraid, like or just not afraid in general, I would say. He's not worried. It's like it's completely different than someone who's never played against a strong GM.
Bluff in some ways because I would have had to start thinking right away.
Okay. Yeah, and that alone gets to what gets to what he was saying about your experience playing strong players. You knew that it's important that, that he
exactly
that you're prepared whether you are or not.
Yep.
Yeah, because I figured Hikaru would prefer to not go into any forcing variations where I have the opportunity to just play engine lines or interpret it as such. And so therefore, I wanted to represent that I had the potential for that, even though I was kind of bluffing with it. I didn't remember the engine lines, but I was like, okay, he might do something different. And if he does, it's still the correct move. It's still the move I would play. But that was the difference between me playing it in 2 minutes versus like 8. I just decided to play it at that point.
Yeah, and Hikaru has alluded to exactly that psychological dynamic in some of his recaps, where he does want to try to keep things quiet and try to keep things in slightly more offbeat channels. But so the game proceeds, and you do this bishop h5 to bishop g6 maneuver to trade the bishops, and before you know it, you're playing this move g5 that was quite risky. You know, lower-rated players are always taught not to move pawns in front of their kings, and it looks like you can take it, but then you can unveil your knight, but you're kind of moving your queen into the line of fire. And what Hikaru said in the post-mortem on his channel was that you blitzed this out, so that was a bluff as well?
No, so actually I thought he had bluffed me on the previous move with f4, because when I played bishop h5, I had to consider the possibility of f4, because my intention with bishop h5 was to go bishop g6 on the next turn. And so once I play bishop h5, if he goes f4, now my bishop g6 would be responded with f5, trapping my bishop.
Right.
So I needed some solution to my bishop potentially getting trapped like that. And so when I played bishop h5, I had already seen f4 g5, because I think if I don't have that, I haven't checked, but my feeling during the game was that I was in trouble. So it almost felt forced in a way. And when he was thinking before playing f4, I thought initially it was going to be one of those Hikaru moments where he plays the move in a minute. That was the energy I was sensing from him. And he's very expressive, and I've watched him play so much over the years because he's definitely been one of the favorite players of mine. He was going to do that, and then he realized something, and then he needed to think another 5 minutes or so, and then ended up playing f4 anyway. So my read on it was he played f4 to kind of test the waters to see if I'd even be willing to do that. I could be wrong, but that was my thought during the game. So I thought G5 almost feels forced.
Reasonably correct.
Move.
Reasonably correct.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not an easy.
I mean, not completely correct, but reasonably correct is what I would say. Like, I had calculated G5. I would say what my assessment, as I think about it now, is basically twofold. The first thing is, if I didn't play f4, I thought his plans were too easy, and I basically thought he was good enough to figure it out. And when I played f4, it was a 50-50, where if he plays g5, I wasn't sure how clear it is, but if he doesn't play g5, I thought I was simply better. So it was basically a 50-50 situation. That was the reasoning behind it.
He moved to play against Hikaru, but I mean, that's why you're,
G5 was the best move,
is you've learned to think concretely rather than these sort of vague feelings of safety,
Yeah, at least for a long enough time in the game. I think eventually I've reverted back to wanted to be a little too safe.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think
that's the move I wanted to get to next, but go ahead.
Yeah, I felt like one thing that I took from the games against Hans and against Levy is that you can really feel, or at least I could, the pressure of all the eyes on you, and there's like this objective test in front of you that's kind of like adjacent to playing the engine. Like, like if you make a mistake, it's supposed to be punished.
Right.
Like, that's what you're kind of expecting. And I could feel it for the first 5 minutes or so during the game against Hikaru again. But then I made a conscious decision after my moves, I was going to walk away from the board and just kind of loosen up a bit and just play freely. And to some degree, I can't control my understanding of chess at that moment in time. Like, my understanding is what it is, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I burn a lot of time and get down 30-40 minutes against Hikaru, no matter the position, I'm probably going to be toast later on. So I thought it was really critical I manage my time and just kind of play freely, show him that I'm willing to make any move, even if it's risky on the surface, if I really believe in it. Whereas against Hans, I played like very tight. I played like a Petrov. I played what I was trying to play, like correct, proper engine chess. And I didn't want to make any mistakes intentionally, but I guess I was less afraid to, because I thought not taking any risk is a risk in of itself. So I have to just choose my risk here and just kind of decide when is the time to let go and just trust your hand.
Okay. Brilliantly said. Echoes of when I interviewed Mark Heyman, who of course had those standout results where he ascended from international master to grandmaster, and he was describing what it was like to play Fabiano, and he kind of put himself, he's a naturally fast player, but he kind of put himself in through those exact same sort of sequence of thoughts. Well, if I think for too long every move, I'm defeating myself. So I'd rather just play freely, and whatever happens, happens. But again, it's easier said than done. I think anyone listening, myself included, like, no matter who you are, when you're playing someone significantly higher rated, the same psychological dynamics come into play. Obviously, Hikaru is on a whole nother level, but still, great lessons there.
So for anyone who's asked, the player being interviewed is Nick Mata. He's the player who gave me the toughest fight in the 2 tournaments I played between Louisiana and Iowa. 5-time Louisiana state champion, the best player locally. He has a USCF near 2400.
I think it's just important to remember these guys are human, and there's a certain limitation to how much they can show their strength in a singular move or just even a few moves. It's really a matter of the consistency that they have game to game, tournament to tournament.
Very true.
And just throughout the game, they don't really error much at all. But a good chess move is a good chess move, and that's not going to change no matter who's across the chessboard. So I think you just have to trust where you're at.
He's right about this, actually. Like, he's very, very right about this bit. That you have to. Is there any more? Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop right here. But the point that he's making is absolutely correct. That the difference between like the best players and just like other players is basically that it's that it's the consistency over the course of a game and over a tournament. Like, you'll see the consistency, no blunders over the course of 9 games, no blunders over the course of like 3 tournaments. Like, that's the difference. But he is right that in a singular move or even a few moves, there isn't really a difference between the moves that I make and say a GM makes. It's just that over the course of the games and tournaments, like, the consistency, you know, it will be better than other like GMs. So I think I'm going to stop it right here. I think there is one more interview, which I might get to another time. To stop it right here for right now. But I think it was good to cover this. I think for me, it's actually really fun to hear these stories. I think for the players to have these experiences is very, very special. And that's why I find it disappointing to see some of the comments, because these players had the experience of their lives. It's something that they'll be able to tell their kids, their grandkids about, you know, many years down the road. And it's something they never would have had the opportunity to do otherwise. And I think it's just great to see the positivity. I will say that this video and just the comments from these players specifically, it really echoes the sentiment of what I felt both in Louisiana and Iowa. There was a lot of positivity, a lot of people asked for autographs. You know, you heard the story about Harry, the player I played in the first round, being hung over. And I will just say in Iowa, there's one guy, I didn't play him, he was a little bit weaker, like maybe like 1,000 playing the reserve section. But he showed up at the tournament. Basically, he got my autograph, he asked for a picture, and he was telling me he never would have shown up at the Iowa State Championship if he hadn't been turned down for homecoming by a girl. So, you know, there are all these people with all their different stories, that whether it's Louisiana, whether it's Iowa, wherever I choose to go, like these are lifetime experiences. And I think it's very important to remember that that these experiences are very special for the players, and it's something that's very meaningful, more than just, you know, all the people getting outraged over games. So I did want to mention that, because it is very important to point out. And the vibes in both Iowa and Louisiana were exactly were exactly the same. The players were positive, the fans were positive, the parents, everybody, you know, they had a great environment, they had a great experience. It was a great environment. I think it's really important, as I said when I was in Iowa too, people need to remember that what you see on the internet, usually the people who are the loudest, the people who generally don't know what they're talking about, and they sort of are part of this very, very much this fringe minority versus, you know, what reality is. And so when I see these comments and all these people acting outraged about various things, it's just kind of amusing to me in a way, because that's just not the experience I had, and I don't think that's the reality. So it was a lot of fun to play these tournaments. I have not necessarily figured out exactly what my next couple of tournaments are going to be. I have general ideas. I will say that I don't intend to go back to either of these locations. That's what I will say overall, but I haven't 100%, you know, I haven't bought tickets or figured out exactly what the tournaments I'm playing are. So it was a lot of fun. I had a great experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, but that's gonna do it for right now. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button, and thank you so much to all you guys out there for the support. See you guys. For one last point I want to make for everybody who's watching, I have won 3 state championships now. So people don't remember, but I won the New York State Championship when I was much younger. I've now won the Iowa State Championship. I've won the Louisiana State Championship. So it's 47 more states to go that I need to win in order to get there.
When I see some of these moves that computer suggests after a game that I play, and I just go, wow, that is the beauty for me, because these are not moves that I would ever consider. And when I then see the move, and then like I might make a couple of moves to try and understand why, that is the beauty to me. I'm just trying to play as well as I can, and I don't really worry. Like, if I lose a game, it's not the end all be all. I'm not naturally talented, but if I don't get something, I try to figure out, why don't I get it? What am I doing wrong? Over and over and over again.
See you guys. Have a good one. See you guys. Bye.